Well, folks, it's time to kick it old school. So you can feel cool. Yeah.
What's up, everybody? My name is Ale and welcome to my world of finance. Today we're talking about my three biggest stocks that I'm investing in going into the month of June 2018. And those are still Nintendo, AMD, and Disney. But I do have a little bit of a surprise. Disney has actually taken the place of AMD. So it's actually moved up and bumped AMD down. So now the order of my three biggest stocks are number 1 Nintendo, number 2 Disney, and number 3 AMD. And I'll explain why in just a second. But with that, let's go ahead and get started and let's talk about my number 1 biggest stock, Nintendo. Alright, so Nintendo has long been my best performing stock in my portfolio. And if you want any more details on the 3 stocks that I'll be talking about today, make sure you check out the other videos that I've made. But Nintendo, I picked up Nintendo at around the high 20s, and it's climbed to as high as the high 50s, and sometimes it's gone down to the high 40s. And as of recently, it's probably been hanging out around the high 40s to low 50s. Now, I know I've said this a million times, but I have to reiterate the biggest reason why I'm investing in Nintendo, and that's because of this guy right here, the Nintendo Switch. And this is a hybrid console for Nintendo, and this is actually their newest console. And so this is the Nintendo Switch, biggest reason why I'm investing in Nintendo. Now, the Nintendo Switch is selling like crazy, and probably the biggest reason why is because it is a hybrid console. It is a console that you can put in a dock and play on your big screen TV as a home console, or you can pull up off the dock and play in portable mode wherever you go and take with you basically on the go. And so because of that hybrid style, everybody really wants this console. Now, the Nintendo Switch launched back in March of 2017, and so roughly 1 year later, it's already sold over 17 million units, and that is insane because if you look at the previous console for Nintendo, the Nintendo Wii U, that one launched back in 2012, and so roughly, 5 or 6 years later, it's only sold around 13.5 million units. Okay, and the Nintendo Switch has already beaten that in just 1 year compared to 5 or 6 years for the Wii U. So that is insane. And a big reason why is also because the Nintendo Wii U was a colossal failure, and that's because they marketed it horribly and the consumers never really knew what it was. It was kind of it kind of wanted to be a hybrid console, but it never really was, and so it was just marketed very badly and consumers were confused and nobody really wanted to buy it. But the Nintendo Switch, different story. It looks like Nintendo has learned their lesson. Marketing has been fantastic and people have been picking this up like crazy, and I believe that will continue, and I'll give you a couple reasons why. Okay, now my first reason is Pokemon, and I know I've said this a million times, you guys are sick of hearing it, but you cannot underestimate the power of Pokemon. Thing sells like crazy, and when we look at Pokemon Go, which was that app for the smartphones, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, everybody was playing it everywhere you looked. People were playing Pokemon Go and they were kind of swiping up their smartphone to capture Pokemon and things like that. That app was downloaded over 800 million times and it brought in over $1 billion in revenue. That is insane. So Pokemon is a major powerhouse. And what's crazy is that Nintendo actually recently announced 3 new type of Pokemon games that are coming to the Nintendo Switch. And at first I was a little skeptical when I first heard about them. They were a little funky. I'm going to explain in just a second, but they were a little funky, a little quirky, and I was a little skeptical. But now that I've had some chances to reflect on it, I realize that it makes perfect business sense, and I'm going to explain to you why. Now, those 3 different type of Pokemon games are Pokemon Quest, Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, and Let's Go Eevee, and the third one is a mainline core Pokemon game that is set to come out in 2018. Pokemon Quest is already out, available for download on the Nintendo Switch. Pokemon Let's Go will be available in November of this year, 2018. And the next mainline core Pokemon game will be available next year in 2019, like late 2019. Okay, so let's start with the first one. Now, Pokemon Quest is essentially kind of a kid's game. I mean, to be honest, it is very much a kid's game, but it is free to download on the Nintendo Switch. So I've actually downloaded it and I've played it. And it's not that bad of a game, but it is definitely targeted towards kids. From what I can tell, it's very simplistic in not just the graphical sense, but also the gameplay. All of it is just very simplistic and very easy to pick up and play. Now, you might think, okay, well, that's targeted towards kids. You know, how many kids are going to have the Nintendo Switch? Definitely a lot, but there are also older people who have the Nintendo Switch, so is it going to attract, you know, a lot of people? But when you think about it, Pokemon Quest for the Nintendo Switch, the biggest way that it can help Nintendo is through microtransactions and DLC. It is a free to download game, but there are many ways that you can spend money on the game. And sure, maybe you're not going to get the hardcore gamers that are a little bit older, but you're definitely getting that younger kid audience. And because it's free to download, it makes it very attractive for kids being able to get it. Kids don't have to ask for permission from their parents or have to ask them to buy anything. They can just download it for free. And then once they get hooked on it, then they can start asking their parents for money so that they can buy microtransactions and DLC and things like that. So it makes perfect business sense, and it's already free to download and it's already available on the Nintendo Switch eShop. Okay, now the second type is Pokemon Let's Go and Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. And this one has a lot of integration and functionality with the Pokemon Go app for smartphones. Remember, I said that the Go app has been downloaded over 800 million times. And I'm not saying that I'm not saying that it still has that many people playing, but whoever is still playing, you're giving them lots of reasons to come over to the Nintendo Switch. You're enticing them to come over because now you can transfer Pokemon back and forth, and there's other integration that they haven't even announced yet. And this Let's Go game for the Nintendo Switch is actually going to have a little bit more of a core kind of gameplay style. So it's going to have even more functionality than the Go app for smartphones. So I think a lot of people are going to see this and be like, this is exactly the kind of game that we want to play. And it's also a little bit of a remake of Pokemon Yellow, which is that old school game. So it kind of has a little bit of a nostalgic factor as well. And when you look at launch copies, they've already shipped over 600,000 units to France alone. That's just for the country of France. Some analysts are predicting launch units for the United States at over 5 million. I mean, we're talking crazy, crazy numbers, and that's just for launch. I mean, you think about, give it a few, well, maybe not a few years, but give it like a few months or things like that. You're going to see some crazy, crazy numbers. So this can definitely sell the Nintendo Switch, and this is right now. So this is some revenue that we can see right now for Nintendo and help get more Nintendo Switches into more hands this holiday season, because it's launching on November of 2017, so perfect for the holiday season. Okay, and the third and last type that they announced was the core mainline Pokemon game that should be coming out in late 2019. And this one also makes perfect sense because some of the core, really hardcore Pokemon game fans, they look at Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee and they think, this is kind of like Pokemon Go. They may not be as attracted to it. So they're picking up that last tier of fans, right? That last piece of the puzzle, those other gamers left that are the really hardcore gamers of Pokemon. And they're saying, hey, we got a game coming for you as well. This one's coming out in late 2019, and if you want to wait until then, you've got some other Pokemon games that you can play in the meantime. You've got Pokemon Quest, and you've got Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, and then you got your hardcore game in late 2019. And then after that, they can probably cycle between all three, right? They can have releases between all three. So we're basically looking at a steady stream of Pokemon games to the Nintendo Switch, and Pokemon sells like crazy. So again, you cannot underestimate this. This is huge news and a big reason why I'm investing in Nintendo, to be honest. Okay, and if Pokemon isn't good enough news, my other reason why I'm so bullish on Nintendo is because of E3. E3 is coming up this month, and we already have leaks that a bunch of games are coming out for Nintendo to the Nintendo Switch, and a big third-party game that's coming is Fortnite. And you may have heard of Fortnite Battle Royale. It's taken over the gaming industry by storm. You're talking over 40 million players across PlayStation, Xbox, PC, and mobile. And you're talking hundreds of millions of dollars generated in just the last few recent months alone. So this is a huge, huge game right now. And it's been leaked that it's basically coming to the Nintendo Switch. The Korean ratings board has actually rated the game for the Nintendo Switch. So it's basically all but confirmed. And I think that once this game gets announced, I could also see Nintendo stock jumping up, and especially once it kind of starts bringing in even more players and even more Nintendo Switch consoles start selling. I mean, I really think that the Nintendo Switch is just going to take off. It's going to sell so many units. But anyway, that's Nintendo. That's why I'm so bullish on it. Next up is next up is Disney. Okay, so Disney, man, oh man, do I love Disney. In a stock market that is so incredibly high with companies at ridiculous valuations, Disney has essentially flatlined. And not only does Disney have a tremendous amount of growth potential when they eventually take over Fox and launch their streaming platform, but they also pay a dividend yield of 1.58. They have a very reasonable PE ratio of 13.2, and they are still priced at under $100 a share, which I think is insanely cheap in my opinion. And they are down over 7% for the year. And honestly, Disney is a stock that I love to see go down and stay cheap in price. Now, Nintendo is a different story. Nintendo is my biggest stock, and I want to see them climb and climb, and I want to see them skyrocket from Pokemon, and then I plan on selling it and cashing in all that profit. But Disney is a different story. I want to see Disney stay low, and I want to pick up as much Disney stock as humanly possible. And the reason why is because I've always said it, that Disney is the type of stock that I feel I can basically hold forever. I'm talking years and years, even decades, until I ever really want to sell my Disney stock. And a big reason why is because they just have so much IP, so much content, such a strong brand that I can never really imagine Disney becoming irrelevant. Now, why am I so bullish on Disney? Well, there's a couple reasons, but one of the biggest ones is because of their acquisition of 21st Century Fox assets priced at over $50 billion. Now, that's assuming that it's allowed to go through, and it's also assuming that they're not overbid by another company. But if that actually does go through, that provides a lot more IP, a lot more content that they can integrate into their different segments, like their studio segments, right? Like all the movies and things like that, shows, and also into their theme parks, and also onto their streaming platform once that actually gets launched. And not only does Disney already own the rights to Star Wars and most of Marvel, but this acquisition would also give them control over X-Men and Deadpool, and this would allow them to integrate those two into any other movies or shows and kind of configure all of their studio segment however they want. And on top of that, they will also get control over the first Star Wars movie, which Disney did not own, but now they'll basically have full and complete control over all the Star Wars movies, along with all the other content that comes from 21st Century Fox, allowing them to get an even bigger boost to add to their streaming platform and compete with the likes of Netflix and Amazon. And you're definitely going to need some big guns if you're going to want to go up against Netflix and Amazon. And I think this acquisition can definitely point them in the right direction and give them a little bit of a boost, a little more power to go into that fight. And speaking of Netflix, we already know that Disney has been quoted in saying that they are planning on removing all of their content from Netflix in the near future and then starting their own streaming platform. And they've also been quoted in saying that it would actually be even cheaper than Netflix. We'll have to see if that actually becomes true or not, but that is certainly interesting as well. Now think about this for a second. If you can pay less than Netflix and get access to all the Star Wars movies, Star Wars shows, which we already know that they're working on Star Wars shows for their streaming platform, and you get access to Marvel movies and Marvel shows and all the other content and all the kids content, and this will be perfect for parents who have a bunch of kids and they can just sign up for one streaming service and have all this great adult content but also all of this great kid Disney content, and you have all of that in one place. Then they definitely have the opportunity to become bigger than Netflix, but they have to do it the right way. And I emphasize that last part because there's been some recent comments and reporting that it's looking like Disney may, well, first of all, let me say this. In the acquisition, Disney would actually get control of Hulu. I believe Disney has about 30% of Hulu. Fox has about 30% of Hulu. If they take over those Fox assets, Disney would end up with about 60% of Hulu, which would give them control over Hulu. And instead of just integrating Hulu into the Disney platform, it's looking like they may allow Hulu to operate on its own. And it's a little bit unclear as to how they're going to divide all this content. Some reporting is saying that they may have kids content in one service, they may have more adult stuff in another service, and this just makes absolutely no sense to me at all. This is going to confuse the consumer, and it's one of the reasons why I'm actually a little bit scared of Disney. I'm hoping that Disney will come to their senses, and I'll talk about that in just a second, but you do not want to confuse the consumer, not in a market where you're competing with Netflix and Amazon. You need to have one place where you can get all of the Disney content. If you start spreading that out and you're telling people, well, you got to pay for this if you want the adult content, or if you want Star Wars and Marvel, you got to pay for this one if you want all the kids content, that's going to confuse everybody, and it's not going to work, and it's not going to help your cause or help your case against Netflix and Amazon, which are huge companies to compete with. When you think of Netflix, it's simple. One price gets you the Netflix streaming platform, and you get all your content all in one place. You think of Amazon, also very simple. Most people have Amazon Prime anyway. And when you have Amazon Prime, okay, Amazon is here, says, here you go, a bunch of free content that you can stream for free. You already have Amazon Prime, and we're such a good company. We take care of our customers so much that we're giving you all of this video content, basically for free. These are simple, clear messages where you get all your content in one place. Disney has to do the same thing. You need to be clear and concise when you deliver your message to the consumer. So in conclusion, when it comes to Disney, it's a little bit of a wait and see situation. In the meanwhile, I'm picking up shares of Disney because I think it's very undervalued, and I think it's a great price at under $100. In my opinion, not telling you guys what to do, but I'm definitely picking up as much Disney stock as I can, and I'm hoping that this deal with 21st Century Fox goes through. I'm hoping that Disney comes to their senses and they deliver one easy to understand, simple package, simple, streaming platform. You download Disney streaming and you get all this content, or if it's Hulu, whatever it is, but you get all this content for one simple price. You get adult content, you get kid content, you get all of it included, Marvel, Star Wars, everything. And then I think you're talking about a huge success. Now, if Disney messes that up and they confuse everybody, and we've seen it in the past, anytime you confuse the consumer will go for the simpler option, and then you could start having a problem. But we'll have to see what happens. I'm still bullish on Disney. I don't think they'll ever become irrelevant. I think it's just a question of, will they make the smart decisions and will they come to their senses? We'll have to wait and see. But that's Disney. Now let's go to my third biggest stock, which is AMD. All right, so AMD, this is a stock that people are very passionate about one way or another. People are always very bullish on it. People are always very bearish on it. It kind of just goes up and down. And in the past, I've always said that AMD is a long-term investment for me, but I haven't kept you guys up to date. I've been very busy the last few months and I haven't been able to make videos. And, I haven't really kept you up to date to, in terms of what I'm doing with AMD. And AMD is just one of those very volatile stocks. It's just, sometimes it goes up, I think I've seen times where it goes up over 10%, in one day, 13%, 14%. Sometimes it drops, 7%. I mean, it's just kind of crazy. It's been a crazy stock. It's been a little bit all over the place. And every time I'm looking at comments, people are saying, man, if I can just break even with AMD, I will get out of it and I will never touch AMD again. And I'm thinking those people probably sell, they've probably had bad experiences with AMD, right? They've probably bought AMD thinking that it would go up a huge amount and it ends up dropping, 7% or something, and they get scared. And you always hear the term, never catch a falling knife. And so they get scared and they sell the stock because they think it's gonna drop more. And then, a week later it goes up 13% and they're like, oh man, I feel like an idiot. I sold it at such a horrible price and now it's up a lot. It's one of those stocks, okay? It's just one of those stocks. And, I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do about it. It's just one of those stocks that's it's just very volatile. Now, in the past few months, what I've been doing with AMD is I've been swing trading it a little bit. And the reason why is because it's just been up and down so much. And, and I should clarify, when I say swing trade, I don't mean that I sell my entire position, right? So I buy low, right? So sometimes it drops a lot. Okay, that's my time to buy. So I buy it. I buy AMD stock. And then when it goes up a lot, I don't sell all of the position. I sell some of it. And the reason I sell some of it is because there is the potential that it could continue to go up, right? You never know, I'm not psychic. And so, when it goes up a lot, I'll sell some of it. If it comes back down, then I'll buy some of it, things like that, but that's kind of how I swing trade. When I do, and I don't usually swing trade a lot. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I don't swing trade a lot, and I'm not very good at it. I'm definitely not good at it. But with AMD, it's kind of easy sometimes, to be honest. In my opinion, it's a little easy because sometimes it's literally like that with AMD. One week it's up a huge amount, another week it's down a huge amount. I mean, it's pretty simple. It's down, buy some. It's up, sell some. It's not that complicated, in my opinion. Anyway, that's what I've been doing with AMD. Now, I'm still bullish on AMD. I'm still bullish, and I'm still bullish in the long term. I think there's a lot of potential. There's a lot of things that are coming up that I think could really help AMD. And AMD is just one of those companies who can still gain a lot of market share. They've had a very long rough patch where Intel and NVIDIA has kind of taken over the markets, and AMD has kind of, sat back in the sidelines, and everybody's kind of thought of AMD as this, kind of cheap, chip maker that isn't really that great. And if you don't really care about performance, sure, go buy some AMD. But now AMD is kind of starting to come up in the world, and they're kind of starting to gain some market share. And I think they have a lot of potential to really take over a lot of this market share. So with that, let's go ahead and talk about AMD, and let's talk about a couple reasons why I'm still bullish on them, even in the long term. But first, let's take a look at the stock. Now, the stock is at around the 14s right now. On Friday, it jumped up over 5%. The stock has been doing pretty well. I think this is the highest it's been in maybe a year, or maybe like half a year, something like that. So recent months, it's definitely up the highest right now. And a big reason why it jumped up is because it got a little bit of an upgrade in terms of the price target from an analyst at Stifel, and they raised their price target from $14 to $17. And what they basically said is that consumer confidence is growing in AMD, given their strength of EPYC in the server market, and given their broader reach and broader line of products in the CPU for PC market as well. So on the server side of things, they basically said that they believe AMD will gain traction with EPYC, and they will meet management's goal of exiting 2018 with mid-single-digit market share compared to less than 1% in the second half of 2017. So essentially a very nice increase there. On top of that, Cisco Systems was exclusively using Intel chips in their server platforms, but they recently announced a new multi-node server that was built using EPYC chips. And they were quoted saying, "We chose AMD EPYC server processors for the first node of the UCS 4200 platform due to the architectural synergy with the workloads our customers want to power with this type of form factor." Now, it's expected that this platform will launch in the second half of 2018, and a lot of analysts are saying that they're expecting other companies to make similar announcements as they continue to take note and recognize EPYC's power in the server market. And so if that actually does, that is a little bit of speculation, but if that actually does come to fruition, then we could see other companies coming out saying, hey, we're building servers using AMD EPYC chips as well, and that can always provide little pops for AMD stock. So that could definitely help AMD stock as well. Now, don't forget, in the past, we've talked about the gaming industry being as big as it is and continuing to grow every year. And don't forget that AMD actually powers Xbox and PlayStation, and so they'll likely be powering the next PlayStation and the next Xbox. The Nintendo Switch is a little different because it's powered by NVIDIA, but AMD works with PlayStation and Xbox, and we could be seeing announcements from Xbox or from Microsoft and Sony in the next E3 of next year, so probably 2019. Some rumors are saying 2019 E3 we could start to see announcements. Some rumors are actually saying that Xbox may even try to launch a console in late 2019, which would be very soon because they just launched the Xbox One X. But if they launch this one in late 2019, probably as a way of jumping ahead of Sony and getting kind of a head start on the next generation of consoles. Anyway, all of that is speculation, so take all of that with, I don't like saying grain of salt because everybody says that, but just be cautious with that information, and just know that maybe the next consoles could be 2020, maybe 2021, but either way they'll likely be powered by AMD. And when looking at the AMD roadmap on the CPU side, we'll likely be seeing the 7nm AMD Ryzen 2 launching in 2019. We'll probably see Ryzen 3 launching in 2020. On the GPU side, we would probably be seeing AMD Navi, the 7nm Navi, launching in 2019, and then we'll probably see the next gen of that launching in 2020. And it would be really awesome if we got those in the next gaming consoles as well. That would definitely provide a lot of power, and it would be great for AMD as well. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Are you bullish on any of these stocks? Are you bearish on any of these stocks? Do you think I'm smart for investing in them? Do you think I'm an idiot for investing in them? Let me know in the comment section. And what are your 3 biggest stocks? Let me know, and maybe I'll talk about them in a future video as well. If you want to support the channel, all you have to do is subscribe and make sure that you hit that like button. It really helps out a lot, and I appreciate all the support. You guys are awesome. I love you, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. God bless. I'll see you later.